and ready to level up. Today, we're diving deep into 15 tips to help you do just that.
We found them in this motivational podcast, and we think there's so much to unpack here.
Oh yeah, tons of good stuff, like how even just reading 10 pages a day can be a game changer.
Right. Imagine like reading a biography of someone you admire.
Yo, yeah.
And picking up their strategies and mindsets. Or, maybe a philosophy book that really challenges the way you think about things.
It's like a workout for your brain,
Exactly.
And speaking of workouts, we can't forget exercise. It's not just about looking good.
No, not at all.
It's about having the energy and the focus to actually achieve your goals.
For sure. And you don't have to run a marathon every day to see the benefits.
Right, even short bursts can make a difference.
Yeah, like even just a quick walk can boost your mood and help you think more clearly.
Totally. And that reminds me of another point from the podcast, all about starting your day with intention.
Oh yeah, that morning routine.
Even something as simple as hydrating or stretching.
Makes a huge difference.
It sets the tone for the whole day.
Exactly. It's like minimizing those little decisions you have to make early on.
Yeah.
And saving your energy for the big stuff.
I remember when I started doing that, I felt so much more in control.
Right. And it's that intentionality that matters, right? Like the podcast said, imagine going on a road trip without a map.
Ooh, that'd be frustrating.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get very far. And it's the same with personal growth,
You gotta have those goals.
Yeah, clear goals.
Yeah.
And then break those big, scary goals down into smaller steps, right?
Exactly. Manageable chunks.
It's like if you want to write a book, if you think about the whole thing at once, it's overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
But if you just focus on writing a page a day,
Yeah.
suddenly it seems doable.
It's about that consistency, right? And that actually reminds me of another point that resonated with me.
What's that?
Gratitude. They talked about writing down 3 things you're grateful for every evening.
Oh, I love that.
It sounds so simple, but it really is like a mental reset.
Yeah, and there's science behind it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, practicing gratitude actually helps your brain focus on the positive, which can reduce stress and boost your overall well-being.
Wow. So it's like training your brain to look for the good
Exactly.
instead of dwelling on the negative.
Yeah, you start to notice those little moments of joy.
Like that first sip of coffee in the morning.
Oh yeah, or a beautiful sunset.
It's about being present, which actually leads perfectly into another key tip from the podcast. Mindfulness.
Oh, such a good one.
Finding those moments of stillness, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Especially in our busy world,
Yeah, it can be tough.
But even just a few minutes of mindful breathing
Or a short walk.
can make a huge difference in your stress levels.
It's like hitting pause on the chaos.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission just to be.
Exactly. And, that idea of being mindful of what we surround ourselves with, it also applies to our social circles, right? Like the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's so true. Our social circles, they really do impact our lives.
Name time.
Like building a garden, you want to make sure you're planting those seeds that are going to flourish.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, surrounding yourself with people who support you, inspire you.
And recognizing the relationships that might be draining your energy too, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes setting boundaries is the best thing you can do for yourself.
For sure. And that same kind of intentionality, we should apply it to continuous learning too.
Yes, always be learning something new.
The podcast said even just 15 minutes a day can have a huge impact.
And there are so many ways to do it now,
Yeah.
Language apps, online courses.
It's about feeding that curiosity.
Right. And it keeps your mind sharp and adaptable.
And then there's the feeling of accomplishment, when you master a new skill,
Oh yeah, it's the best.
like leveling up in a video game almost. Speaking of challenges, the podcast had some really interesting things to say about failure.
They weren't afraid to talk about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, they actually encouraged us to embrace it,
To see it as a learning opportunity.
which can be tough,
It is tough, but so many successful people have failed along the way.
Oh yeah,
It's not about avoiding failure.
it's about how you respond to it.
Exactly. It's about getting back up and learning from those mistakes.
So it's like instead of seeing it as a dead end, it's valuable feedback.
Exactly. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this?
And then you can adjust your approach,
Exactly. And that builds resilience.
which is so important. And it's something you can build over time, right?
Absolutely. It's like a muscle you can train.
It all comes back to those small, consistent efforts, which brings us to another big one, time management.
Oh, time management, the struggle is real.
It is. The podcast really emphasized how important it is to see time as a limited resource
Yeah, it's precious.
and to be intentional about how we use it.
So true.
Yeah.
It's not about squeezing every last minute out of the day.
Right? It's about aligning your actions with your priorities.
Asking yourself, what really matters to me?
And am I using my time in a way that reflects that?
Yeah, those are some big questions.
They are, but the podcast also gave some great tips like time blocking and setting daily priorities.
Those are game changers.
Oh yeah, time blocking. It's like creating a schedule for your day.
It keeps you on track.
And it stops those tasks from blending into each other.
Absolutely. You know, it's kind of like tracking your progress, which the podcast also talked about.
Ah, yes. They encouraged us to keep track of our growth.
Yeah, whether it's in a journal or an app or even just a checklist.
There's something about seeing it all laid out, you know?
It's motivating.
It really is. It shows you how far you've come.
It keeps you accountable too.
And it celebrates those small wins.
Exactly. And speaking of small wins, we can't forget the importance of believing in yourself.
Oh, that's a big one.
It really is the foundation for everything, you know?
Yes, if you don't believe in yourself.
It's hard to move forward.
Exactly. And that self-belief, it fuels our motivation, our resilience. It allows us to step outside our comfort zones and try new things.
And the best part is it's not something you're born with.
You can build it.
You can absolutely cultivate it.
They talked about positive affirmations.
Oh, yeah.
Reflecting on past successes.
Reminding yourself that growth is always possible.
It's about shifting that inner dialogue.
From negative to positive.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have, and we're just getting started.
There's so much more to explore.
But for now, we'll take a short break.
We'll be back soon to dive even deeper.
In the meantime, think about what's resonated with you so far.
What stood out?
And what small step can you take today to start incorporating these tips into your own life?
It's all about taking action.
We'll be back soon. Back again, and we're ready to keep leveling up. So much good stuff in these 15 tips.
So true. And one thing that really stood out was the focus on consistency.
Small steps every day.
Right? It's not about making huge changes all at once. Like Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. We got to be patient with ourselves and focus on those little wins.
And that applies to breaking bad habits too.
Oh, for sure. We all have them.
Identifying those patterns that aren't serving us.
Like procrastination or that negative self-talk we sometimes get caught up in.
It's tough to break those cycles, but the podcast reminded us that our brains are wired for habits.
So we can actually use that to our advantage.
Right. Replace those bad habits with good ones.
It's like rewiring our brains for success. And speaking of rewiring,
Yeah.
the podcast also talked about something so important that we often neglect.
What's that?
Sleep. Quality sleep.
Absolutely. We sacrifice it so easily, you know?
Work, social media, late night TV.
But it's so crucial for our well-being.
Not just for our bodies, but for our minds, too.
Our brains need that time to process information and recharge.
It's like hitting the reset button.
I love that.
Yeah.
And they recommended 7 to 9 hours a night.
A full night's sleep. And you know what can really help is a good bedtime routine.
Oh, yeah. Those rituals can make a big difference.
Dimming the lights, putting away the screens, maybe reading a book.
Creating that calm environment.
Signals to your brain that it's time to wind down.
Exactly. Just like a morning routine sets you up for a productive day.
Oh yeah, they talked about that too.
Starting your day with intention.
Hydrating, stretching, maybe taking a few minutes to plan your day.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
But it can make such a difference in how you feel.
Right, you're setting yourself up for success. And then, of course, there's the whole time management piece.
The eternal struggle.
Isn't it? But the podcast really got me thinking about how precious our time is.
And how we need to be more conscious of how we're spending it.
It's about making choices that align with our values.
Not just filling every minute with something.
Exactly. What matters most to you.
And are you using your time accordingly?
They gave some good tips, like time blocking.
Oh, I love time blocking. It's like having a roadmap for your day.
It keeps you focused and prevents those tasks from spilling over.
Right, because if you don't have that structure,
Things can get chaotic.
for sure. And it's kind of like tracking your progress too, which they also mention.
Right. Seeing how far you've come.
Whether you're using a journal or an app,
It's so motivating,
it keeps you accountable and celebrates those small wins.
which are so important. And, you know, it all comes back to believing in yourself.
Oh, that's huge.
It really is. It's the foundation for everything.
Without that self-belief.
It's hard to achieve anything, you know.
You're right. It fuels our motivation, our resilience, our willingness to try new things.
And the best part is you can build it.
It's not something you're just born with.
You can cultivate it through positive affirmations, reflecting on your successes.
Reminding yourself that growth is always possible.
It's about shifting that internal dialogue, silencing that inner critic.
We've covered so much.
We have, and there's still more to come.
But in our final segment, we'll tie it all together.
We'll see how all these tips connect and how you can make them work for you.
All right, welcome back for the final stretch of our deep dive. We've explored these 15 tips, but now it's time to see the bigger picture.
Yeah, because they're all connected, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Like how setting clear goals goes hand in hand with time management.
Right. Having that structure to actually achieve what you set out to do.
And then there's mindfulness and gratitude.
Those are so key.
They're not just about feeling good in the moment. They actually help you deal with challenges along the way.
Exactly. It's like building up your resilience.
I like to think of it as building up a toolkit.
A toolkit.
Yeah, with different tools for different aspects of personal growth, like a chisel for goal setting, a hammer for time management.
I love that. And just like any good craftsperson, you got to pick the right tool for the job.
Yeah, for sure. Find the tips that resonate with you the most and start there. And I know it can be tempting to try and do everything at once.
Oh yeah, it can feel overwhelming.
So where do you even begin?
I always say start small. Pick 1 or 2 things that really speak to you and focus on making them consistent habits.
Don't try to change everything overnight.
Right, it's a gradual process.
It's like building muscle.
Exactly.
You don't start by lifting the heaviest weight. You work your way up, gradually increasing the challenge.
And remember, it's not always going to be easy.
Oh, there will be setbacks for sure.
But that's okay. It's part of the journey.
It's about learning from those setbacks and getting back on track.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
And remember, progress takes time.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's about showing up for yourself consistently and making those small improvements that add up over time.
Exactly. And that's what personal growth is all about, right?
It's a journey in self-discovery.
A lifelong process.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final question.
Yeah, what's that?
Which of these 15 tips spoke to you the most?
And what small step can you take today to start implementing it?
Because remember, even the smallest action, when done consistently, can have a big impact.
You have the power to level up your life.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.